A new Maintenance of Racial Harmony Act will be introduced to the law books soon. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong announced this at the National Day rally on Sunday as part of efforts to encourage Singaporeans to treat everyone equally, regardless of race. For more, we're joined by Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the Singapore Management University. Eugene, good to speak to you. How significant is the timing of this announcement?
It is significant, right? The Prime Minister deliberately used the National Day rally platform, the most important speech of the year, to drive home, the importance of race relations. The timing is also significant because race relations have come under much stress recently, particularly on the back of several racist incidents, many of which were widely publicized, in the media. But I don't think, the recent events would have prompted, the proposed changes to the law. But I think in any case, right, that the timing is good because, we would want to build trust and confidence between the different communities. And the best time to do it is when state of relations between the different communities are good. Trust building will take time, and one is never too early to embark on that task.
So what we're looking at here is the combining of all the government's existing powers that are related to race issues under one umbrella. So what are the implications of that?
Well, I think this consolidation, will have two primary effects. I think one is that, it would be neater, right? So we are putting all the relevant laws which are currently scattered across different pieces of legislation, such as the Penal Code and the Sedition Act, into this omnibus law. But I think the more important effect is that clear statement of intent and the determination, to ensure, that race relations continue to be strong. The consolidation also provides an opportunity for the government to enhance the legislative tools, that it could use, to deal with offenders, who seek to upset race relations. But I think it also seeks to provide, not just with additional power to the authorities, but also to provide, for alternative approaches to dealing with offenders, approaches that go beyond punishment and deterrence, and towards measures that would seek to persuade and to rehabilitate offenders.
Now, Prime Minister Lee talked about incorporating softer, gentle touches. How should we understand that?
Steve, I think here, we're looking at the legal response, to someone who undermines race relations to go beyond jail time and fines. So essentially, we're looking at what could be described as, community remedial measures, right? So this could include, for example, the law providing for the power for the authorities to require someone, who has caused offense, to stop doing it, or to make amends by learning about the racial community that's been offended, and to mend ties with them. So when you look at this community remedial measures, they seek to provide, offenders with the opportunity to reconcile their differences with the offended community. And I think here it is important to remember, that putting the culprit in jail is not really going to help the person, in terms of his jaundiced views about a particular community. And so when you look at people who upset race relations, it is not just merely a violation of the law, right? But we're also looking at violating relationships, within a community or between communities, injuring victims and communities. So what I would say is that, I would look at this softer, gentle touches as attempts to build bridges. But the term itself may be somewhat misleading, right? Because the offender is still held accountable. The offender is still required to make a conscious effort to right the wrong. And so I don't see it, in any measure, as being an easier or softer option. But it requires, both the offender and the offended community to engage each other. And I think that's where, we can see positive change coming about from that engagement.
So, Professor Tan, we perhaps already see hints or examples of this approach in the existing Religious Harmony Act. So what aspects do you feel perhaps might be adopted by the new law?
I think certainly the amended MRHA, the Maintenance of Religious Harmony Act, would provide that template. The law was last amended in 2019, but they have yet to be brought into force. And so I think, we will see community remedial measures in the proposed maintenance of racial harmony law. So this attempt at trying to restore ties that have been broken. I think on the other aspect that would be incorporated would be the restraining orders. So let's say someone has offended another community, within his own racial community. Then the idea would be, to provide for a mechanism by which the person would be told to restrain from continuing in that behavior. I think that one other dimension which probably would be worth contemplating, would be involvement of the grassroots, community leaders, to advise the government on race relations. While that has been done currently, I think, we need to formalize, that arrangement. And so that would signal, right, the race relations, the maintenance, moving from a whole of government approach to a whole of society approach.
Professor Tan, thank you very much for your thoughts. As always, Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the Singapore Management University. Singapore's government will be addressing a parliamentary motion filed by the Progress Singapore Party over job anxieties caused by foreigners and free trade agreements like the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement between Singapore and India. Non-constituency Member of Parliament Leong Man Wai said in a Facebook post earlier today that the government has not shown, and I quote, full appreciation of the severity of problems faced by Singaporean workers. Responding to the post, Health Minister Ong Ye Kung says the government understands such anxieties and is continually working to address them. He adds that he was puzzled by the PSP's motion, which comes after a parliamentary debate on the issue in July. He says the PSP appears intent on carrying on its campaign against Sika and warns that it carries a strong racist undertone. The motion is expected to take place at the next parliamentary sitting in September.